Hello everyone. Shall we start? Come on, it's the last one. Try to boost your energy, right? Just even for me, because I came last night all the way from Barcelona, so I don't know if it's 3 a.m. or 6 p.m. today. Just to energize a little bit ourselves. Can I ask you to stand up 1 sec? And sit down if you think that this presentation already is going to be very interesting. And the rest can also too. Okay. So thank you for staying. My talk, I'm going to try to present to you the work that we have done in our company, where I have been working for the last 5 years. For the sake of this relevance for this conference, I'm also an accredited Kanban trainer, and I have attended twice to the enterprise service planning class, so that probably makes me a good practitioner. Let's see. My company is an online travel agency, right? And we are the biggest in Europe. Right now, probably the third biggest in the world. We are like behind Expedia, Ctrip. It's called eDreams ODGO. We have around 1,800 employees. We serve around 20 million customers per year. We manage 900 million searches per month. We are in 45 countries, 400 engineers. That makes around 30 teams. Just to put you into context, we are distributed in Europe, in Alicante. Barcelona is the headquarters, Budapest, Madrid, Paris, Stockholm. So we are relatively big for an online travel agency, all sites. But we were growing through the normal organic growth, but also through mergers and acquisitions. And that made us that we didn't concentrate enough on scaling up the way of working, right? So as a result of that, we had very slow product development process, which also had very long prioritization processes in place. Teams had to manage very complex dependencies across teams. We were not measuring capacity, capability, and we were asking the teams to come out with very awkward estimations. Sounds familiar? And we were delivering over 300% over time. That, for us, means very long lead times, loss of business opportunities, loss of revenue, very unhappy investors and stakeholders. So if that sounds familiar, that's why we wanted to change. We wanted to become small again, small in the way of working. Be quick and adaptive to market needs. Right. So that's it. That was very easy. We acknowledge how we are and where we want to be. So what usually happens in these cases is that companies, we are very busy in operating the company day to day, so we ask consultants to come and do the work for us. So they do come, these consultants, very smart, asking questions, and they draw a sad picture of your current state and back up with a lot of good arguments behind, and they also draw a future nice picture with a very linear path towards that if you some actions that they can actually do for you, right? But one thing that we learn, is that change creates chaos, always. We have talked about that during the day today, several reasons why. So if this doesn't work, we were asking ourselves, what does it work if real change is messy? So stepping back a little bit of looking at experts in their fields, we know we could learn from Virginia Satir, for example, a US researcher that was telling us that in any change there is a pattern where the change will meet resistance initially. That resistance then will be transformed into a curve where there is the acceptance, and this acceptance, then there is a stabilization, and that stabilization, that change is becoming your status quo, and then all over again, meaning change, new resistance, a new step into a small chaos dip. So we knew in that, we learned that we better do changes, but in small steps. This is the key learning from that aspect, but also, looking at other specialists like Maslow, we needed to acknowledge that in any organization there is this social hierarchy in place, where everyone needs to or wants to belong to a team and wants to be good at what they do. So we also knew that from that aspect, breaking that social hierarchy, if we wanted to improve, that would also create resistance, right? And we would meet this type of people. Probably sounds familiar again. Now, from there, okay, we'll respect the social hierarchy, at least initially. And moving from another type of special, we found that there is actually, we could try this recipe where, for the change, where we could create a climate for a change, an urgency. And then, yes, we would need to engage the organization and implemented the changes. But for us, just trying to create this climate was a no-no. Right? We didn't want to create any chaos or any sort of a strong sense of urgency to the company. So we found that there were no recipes, actually. But looking at deeply what we were doing, it is, sound familiar for what we are saying. If we need to make small changes and we need to respect roles and responsibilities, we're talking about implementing Kanban. We have different Kanban principles, right? We could start with what we do now, and we could encourage acts of leadership at all levels. So this was our journey. Okay, we have a good idea that probably Kanban will do good for us. So what was our first step? That was already almost 2 years ago. Back then we had this organization where business functions and IT was very vertically structured. So we had to break these silos, because that was what we had, and we knew that it was creating the inefficiency in our processes. So we started creating cross-functional teams, and we started creating the concept of service teams. So for every single business function, it was equipped with the different skill sets that I needed, and we had other type of teams, what we would call system teams or service teams, that would provide support to the rest of the organization. So these systems teams, they are the ones that work on the maintenance, refactoring of the different systems of the platform. So when we did that, we saw that it had less dependencies. That we improved the coordination between teams, we improved the transparency of the teams, and the maintenance of the platform. So we had some happy people, but not everyone was happy. Everyone was happy because there was no direct relation between the business with the business outcome. We had business and IT, and really was like a frontier. There was the business people thinking on achieving their budget, their objectives, and the IT people trying to deliver their projects. Right? When I need to deliver my project, I need to deliver my objective. I don't know what you're talking about. This is the relationship that we had. That's why we had some unhappy people. From that, then we realized, okay, we need to do some more thinking about it. And what can we do? So we decided to visit other companies to learn. So we visit Google, we visit Booking.com, we visited Spotify and eBay, and trying to learn how they build their products. And from those visits, we had many insights. we share. We had very, common denominators. We saw that in some of these companies, they had very autonomous teams, technically autonomy, and also in decision making. We realized that some teams were actually had the space to create and innovate, and there was a lot of transparency in those teams where we would visit, and very much customer focus. So those were the key learnings from those visits, from those good companies that we visited. From all those insights, then we did an exercise on these keywords that would actually become our sort of a transformation vision that we aspire to be. And for us, it is a little bit difficult to remember. Obviously, the GR strives to become an organization that rapidly develops, learns, innovates, and delivers great products to our customers. Seems a little bit easy and nice to put in somebody else's wall, but it was a lot for us, because if we would have done the same sort of exercise for the current state not long ago, we would see that we were very much focused on delivering, optimizing value for our stakeholders. So back to our planning. Okay, we know now that we have the vision that we strive, the current conditions, which was cross-functional teams already, and we wanted to have autonomy teams. We had the idea of, okay, if we started creating the organization with a product organization and empower the teams to test how far they can go technically, and how far they can go taking their own decisions, this is the way to go. So we started with the organization instead of starting with architecture, because for us, we don't know what type of architecture we are going to need. So we had a high-level roadmap where basically we said, okay, if we know that we think we have the hypothesis that Kanban will work very well for us, we'll pick up 3 teams. We'll make some pilot teams. At the bottom, we say the scout teams. From there, we'll have a lot of learning that when we can apply and roll out to the rest of the organization, while we do some changes and we learn and we understand the changes that we need to do in our architecture. So in order to engage the teams, set up the teams for flow, we started to recruit this team of Agile coaches. Part of them, I'm very proud, and a change there is that they were not consultants. It was a full-time job. So we did it. We wanted to make a point to send a message to the organization that the journey that we are going ahead, it is for some time. So again, we pick up 3 teams, and we have around, as I said, around 30 teams or so. So we wanted to pick up teams that were very representative. So we picked up a team that is very much an activity-based team or project-based, very much with fixed scopes all the time and fixed delivery. We had a team that had the freedom to create their own features, and we have a third team that was like a mix of those two. Right? I said, okay, so we'll pick up these 3 teams, and we'll connect into the organization, trying them to understand. We were talking earlier and in other talks about giving them a purpose. So we were asking the teams to understand what is their mission, what is their purpose in the company, which type of a budget line they support, to understand also their different business KPIs. That's a challenge. And when we started working with them, at the same time, that was around April, very handy that we understood that David was coming out with the ESP training. So we invited David coming along, and we sent 25 people, key people of that product organization that we were building, to this training for 5 days to learn about enterprise service planning, to learn about better scheduling, better forecasting, to manage the work. So that had a very rapid change from all these people, even the people that the teams that we were engaging, plus all the rest of the teams that we were invited to the training. They all started to talk with the same language. They all started to start using randomly risk profiling, right? And making decisions on that, understanding for each the different feature, the different risk profiling they had. So each team would start defining the different vectors that would make sense for them. And try to become very mathematical about it, saying, okay, so these are the different options that we have, and these are the different, risk profiling assessment that we do. So just taking the time for you guys to take the pictures. Okay. So we understood to say, okay, it is a major boost, this enterprise service planning, to the entire organization, and also a good message to send. But we realized that we were still with the pilot teams, and we were going through the basics of Kanban. So on there, we met and leveraged from a model from here, our friend Frederic Accoyance, which we learned from it that it would give to the Agile coaches, it would give us sort of a tool, a sort of a checklist, a guide that we could use to engage the teams. So in this model, we make it like three steps that all the teams go through, which is one, it is an assessment, two, it is a kickstart, and three is a boost phase. So for the assessment is when the Agile coach meets the team and understand who is whom, who does what. We ask the team to come out with a mission. We ask the team to come out with the business KPIs. And after that, we go into the second phase, the kickstart, where we go the team through some Kanban training, and the kickstart, which is designing the workflow. After that, we started the boost phase, which for every team we learned that is very much a tailor-made solution. Some teams, they needed to start spending time understanding better, shaping the demand, to slice and dice all their work. And some other teams, we had to work with them to understand and better manage their dependencies. So this is what we did with the teams. Again, Kanban training, sources of dissatisfaction, also leveraging from Mike Burrows, understanding the systems basically, and setting up the team for flow. We saw some copycats, some teams that we were not engaging, that were trying also to copy from what we were doing. And they're very creative, where they had no wall spaces. They were using desks. So that was working very well. And we saw also the need to invest part of our activities on something that we have talked today, which is team's identity, Einheit, that we were saying. So we were doing some trivialism sort of activities. We were asking also the teams to identify what is their enemy, what is their common enemy, and hope to be outside the company, right? We are asking the teams to come out with their mascot, with their slogan. So as a result of that, we had like a Kanban board like this one, right, which is of a system team, where they call the VB chiefs. They had their own mission written down. They're trying to be the masters of the vacation product, supporting the different product teams that touches the vacation product. They have their mascot, clearly. They identify the different work types. They do understand the upstream. Sorry. They have the different practices of Kanban, of course, with limits. Start measuring the throughput, measuring with run charts, and the lead time distribution. And we started using elements like Grumpy Baby, or Angry Baby, I'll call it. So it is like a third person that we use, the Agile coach uses to, when we see something that is not right doing with the team, to trigger the conversation, basically. So I'll walk you through also through another Kanban board. I don't know why this is dark. Anyway, teams we're starting actually using to become very explicit, not only working practices, but on the different feedback loops that they have, right? So if you're late, you pay a beer after 4 times, right? And start using stop, starting, start, finishing, and make it explicit. So, and their mission, again, in order to link them to business was very important. This team also has the Grumpy Gordon as the key actor in there. Right. So we started to receive the appetite to engage other type of teams, not only product development teams. So we engaged, for instance, the service desk that were dispatching work that comes in and out. For them, their slogan was clear: "No Jira, no party." And we started also fostering merchandising with the teams. So they have their slogan, they design the T-shirts, and they design their pins. Metrics. Regarding metrics, for us, is very important, because if we don't measure, we don't know if we improve. So in order to support the rollout, we're coming out with different tools, which I'll walk you through in a second. So again, from the engagement, we know at every given time how many teams do we have in each phase. Each Agile coach, with the list of activities that we have, we can understand where we are. Sorry for the graphics. Once we have the presentation, it's much better. We leverage from Spotify their team's health check and modify to ours. So we run this on a monthly basis, and we see whether there is an element that increases or decreases. That helps the Agile coaches plan their different activities through the month, right? So if we cross-compare them, we can see some data that is whether if it's increasing or decreasing. Easy to release was one of the big pains, as you can see. Right. And another key topic in the survey was whether they felt if they were upon a player. That was important for us if we wanted them to achieve autonomy. We also ran quarterly surveys with the teams, and we start measuring some lead metrics. We start measuring lead time, local lead time, what we call whatever the work, the time that the work item spends in a team inside the team's boundaries. We call that local lead time, and also customer lead time, which is whenever the customer receives the work item. So from that, we measure flow efficiency. Work time, the actual work time spent, divided by the calendar time. So this is our current, this month, flow efficiency, where we have from a point of view the local lead time on your right, the customer lead time on your right, which is the 20%, versus the 44 of the local, on average, for all the teams that we are engaging now, which is 25 teams. So we understood that 15% it is the average in the industry. And these are these last month data after engaging them 1.5 years. So we see that there is still, even though when we started working with them, we were like 2%. Now that we are at 20%, we see an increase, but still a big gap still to catch up. In order to measure the depth of Kanban, we came up with our own tool after trying several. One of us Agile coaches is very technical, and we saw that we could actually measure the depth of Kanban by having a scale from 0 in the center to 100%. And for each one of the 7 practices of Kanban, we could have, like, clockwise every 3 months, a view of the last 3 months. So we could see if there was increasing or decreasing, and the intensity of the color could see whether if the team has started working in it or has actually mastered it. Question? Yeah, the all 3 oranges, for instance, right, is the same practice. So let's say if the same team over time of the last 3 months. picture. So if we have that for all the teams, we can start seeing which teams actually needs more help than others. This is a dashboard that we have and we use very much on the Agile coaches. On a monthly basis, we meet together and we have the hot seat where each Agile coach sort of explains one or two cases and go, because this is an assessment, a self-assessment that the Agile coach does, right? So it's a little bit subjective for that matter. So we challenge that, and this is the dashboard that we have displayed. Question? This specifically, it is the Agile coach. The Agile coach is the one that makes the call whether the team has internalized it or is mastering it. So we tend to ask them, to yourself, if I step away, will the team still do it? And actually we test that. Yes? Sorry, say again? If we evaluate? Yeah. We have tried several maturity models that are out there. As I said, we had the luxury of having an Agile coach which is very technical, very techy, and wanted to come out with this tool. So it's leveraging a little bit of the different tools that are out there already. About tooling, we work with the organization worked with Jira, and during the pilot phases of the three teams, we attempted to test a new tool. So we did an assessment as well. We started working with Swift Kanban, actually, they're outside. And a very nice tool, excellent, will provide us a lot, much more than what Jira has. But again, we met resistance. The Jira administrators obviously saw that as a threat, as we are scaling up this to entire organization. We have been working for Jira and implementing it is working. Let's try it with Jira. So that was a valid point also. So we use Jira today, but very much different from what we were using before. So the Agile coaches actually have admin rights to define the different flows for the different teams and modify part of the scripts to make the work types in different colors. Sorry for the definition. We use a plugin also Jira called EasyBI in order to measure those metrics, lean metrics that I said.
Coach that you're talking about, are they dedicated to the one team? So they would be equivalent to like a Scrum Master or product owner that's on that dedicated team. Is the Agile coach dedicated to the team?
An Agile coach is dedicated to one team, but is dedicated to 1 to 3 teams.
So they're not seeing all of the ceremonies and sitting there with the teams 100% of the time then?
No, what we do, we usually do, we engage one team. An Agile coach engages one team, and it goes through the different phases. Right? So until the boost phase, we are not engaging a new team. So we spent a good month, if you may, with one team, assessing them, kickstarting, making sure the 7 practices of Kanban are there, that the teams have their weight limits, that the teams have the metrics especially set up. Right? So we work with the teams to understand what is the commitment point or what is the end point. So as soon as we have all the metrics and as soon as we start working with the boost phase, where we start with the upstream or the downstream, then if we start potentially have capacity to engage another team. But on average, we set ourselves that an Agile coach could support to 1 to 3 teams. The reality that we face is that some teams, they learn on different speed. So one team that is very mature, on the different depth of Kanban, we could actually leave them aside and have them support them on ad hoc basis instead of just being there. As for what you were saying, to ensure that they have the ceremony rights and so on, we have what we call the flow facilitator, which is a virtual role. Once the team understands the different feedback loops that they have to go through and their work is, they have written the policies to that, the work agreements. Each team has, they rotate one member of the team for a certain time to do that, to ensure that the team does the dailies to ensure that the team actually moves the work through the Jira, etc. This is how we do.
And one other question. So for the 30 teams, are you guys having all co-located? Or are they, are some folks not sitting within the team space 100% of the time?
No, we do have an Agile coach in Stockholm that is supporting 2 teams. We do have 3 Agile coaches in Madrid that is supporting 6 teams. And the rest are basically in Barcelona, the rest of Agile coaches, where between 1 to 3 teams. We really, the Agile coach needs to be co-located, at least initially. It is true that for the Alicante teams, a service-oriented teams that we have there, we have gone there, set them up, trained them, and so on, but we are doing the support on ad hoc basis from Barcelona. So, predictability. That for us is a game changer. As soon as we started helping the teams, as soon as we understand, helping them understand the throughput, understand what is their capability, and the teams starts doing forecasting or reforecasting, is actually when the management started trusting the teams better. Right? And in order to do that, our hypothesis and what we are doing it is, we see the different teams as service teams. This is the concept of enterprise service planning. And even though most of the teams are cross-functional, there is a degree of dependency that we have with some of the system teams. So as soon as we start working with them, we start measuring them. As soon as we start measuring them, I start having the team understanding the metrics and making good use of that. Then we start asking them to come out with their SLAs. Once the team has an SLA and made it explicit, as we have seen in other talks, we can actually predict ourselves and we can plan that better. So this is what we do in order to manage dependencies. Obviously, that is supporting fostering feedback loops and different working agreements. So a team that has usually a dependency with team A and B, they establish how they're going to work their dependencies. Okay, so if I realize or I discover that I have a dependency on you, we will work in a certain manner. Creating a copy of the Jira ticket or just moving it into your backlog, etc. So this is what we foster, based on SLAs. So,
sorry, I'll repeat the question. How centralized was your kind of effort to connect teams to each other? Did you allow teams to sort of locally figure out how to connect with each other, what the mechanism is, what it would look like, or did you try to roll something out a little more standardized?
We tried. We are trying because we are still in it. The Agile coaches are the ones that are facilitating initially. Right? So since we understand what is the team's strategy and how many bottlenecks, how many dependencies we have, and we make them explicit, we connect them with the different teams, which they already do anyway, right? But we start setting up these working agreements between them and make them explicit. ESP cadences. The previous talk explained to them what they meant. I'm gonna go. For us, as what we did, it is understanding them. We had already many in places. And what we have done, it is leveraging on them. So we were still keep using our names, as actually David was saying. Some of these meetings, we already had them with a different name, OPMs or OCM, strategy meetings. OCM are the ODG, Chief Management people. So we already have them to some degree. And it's actually something that we are working on to map them and revisit the purpose. So we do quarterly updates in order to inform the company of the progress, what we are doing. We held lean coffees from time to time. We have meetups with the community to learn and share experiences. And I was asked, I modified the presentation earlier, I was asked to provide us some insights on the challenges that we have had. For us, one of them was connecting the teams with their business. When you go to a team and, you know, most of the teams, I didn't mention, but we had teams that were working, or some teams were very agile already. Some teams were working with Scrum, some teams were working with Kanban, with Proto Kanban, with Waterfall Kanban, you name it. So when we understand, we engage them and we start asking them for what is their purpose, what is their mission, and what is the business KPIs that they support, that is a challenge. Try to make people understand and changing the way of working and the behavior, to try to understand that they are there for a reason. Also eliminating what we call the handover culture. So we met the teams and obviously we were saying, okay, I'm just a developer, I'm not a QA, I'm not a tester, and vice versa. So that when we explain to them that from a helicopter view, obviously it's just a team. And what matters is that the work is done. So that, you know, boundaries of the different roles starts to dilute a little bit. Is that a question? No. So, good. So another challenge on a different level was keeping all the company informed. As soon as you start doing the changes, you receive a lot of information, and trying to be consistent on the way of communicating, that was a challenge. And getting the metrics right. Getting the metrics and make use of the metrics so the teams actually understand them and so on, also was a nice challenge, and still is. Recommendations. If we were to do it again, we would start small, very, very small. We would involve more the people in the organization. We had great support from the sponsorship from the top, but we had to leverage from bottom up. So we probably would do it also differently and involve more the people. A lesson learned it is that once this starts going on, you don't drive the change. You maneuver it best. And change takes time. We have been already now pretty much almost 2 years and since we started it. Next steps for us, several things. What we call the stabilizing teams. So we have engaged 25 teams. We still have quite a few to go. But we want to make sure that they don't fall back to the whole habits. So for us, one of the key sort of goal that we have at Agile Coaches for this quarter is that it is helping the teams to come out with SLAs. Establishing, reviewing the cadences. That's another action that we have. Reviewing the portfolio, how we manage the portfolio. Expanding the Kanban to a business. We have now that we engage a large number of the organization. We have a lot of requests for teams, also business teams, to be engaged. And the key challenge that we have initiated already, it is that the technical autonomy. So on working on continuous delivery, that is. So again, our roadmap, back again, it is we're in continuous improvement phase, trying to work with architecture to support the teams. Right. That's it. ESP Kanban, so for us, is a risk-free path to business agility. And thank you. I think we have some time for some questions, if you wanted more questions. Yeah.
Test my catching skills. So most of your coaches were employees; they weren't consultants, correct? I heard you say that
we
before.
had 2 internal employees.
Yeah.
That were promoted to Agile Coach because they were already doing that type of work. But the rest, we recruit them from outside.
Okay, so you hired in.
Yes.
Okay. Well, okay. So I was just going to ask you, how did you bootstrap that capability in the first place? And so you hired some of them in, and some you had. What was the size of the organization to the coach number?
As I said, we have 400 engineers, and we are 13 sort of agile coaches, but 10 of them actually worked with the teams at team level.
I was curious to know, how was the collaboration between the teams? Did you find that teams started getting together a little bit more and talking about what they had in common as far as their approach to doing their work?
Yeah, I mean, there were already many feedback loops that they had in place. You know, from engineering side, we have architectures in the organization that actually evangelize and spread the word of you know, we have tech leads that also do that. So in the type of community of practice, they were already doing that. We just foster that the communication, especially on the dependency management and from the product organization, the product owners, from the risk assessment type.
So you showed a lot of great metrics. How did the business do overall? You show a lot of Kanban metrics. Like, how about like on the business side, like whether it's revenue or however you measured, since the whole business really was a part of this effort?
Yeah, good question. It is a challenge. But what we do, we have a strategy, and that strategy is meant to generate X amount of revenue. So from that strategy, it is, if we have a business function, this business function may have 2 or 3 teams, 4 teams, you name it. Those different teams, they have a mission to support the strategy and a business KPI. So that business KPI is actually the, let's say, the business outcome. If it's the conversion rate, or is it, you name it. So this is the link that we do with the business. We struggle to quantify, if you may, the future to actually the revenue it provides, because we are an online travel agency and there is a flow right on the booking flow, and there are many teams that interact. So actually, to be precise on the revenue aspect at feature level, we haven't done so. So we do it through the business KPI.
Ivan, can you please talk a little bit about the roles and behaviors of managers at DJO and how it changed throughout your story? Thank you.
Good question. Yeah, because we started this small with 3 teams, and those teams we were having to talk to their business counterparts and explain to them the different roles changes. So we were introducing a product owner, where before there was a business owner actually that would provide the let's say, what the team has to do. So obviously, what we had done, it is to talk to them both and make them understand that what is important it is that they made to a common agreement. Where we expect that 95% of the times they come to a common agreement, and if there is a difference, the last call is for the product owner to make. That was because that's the role that the ultimate responsible. So behavior changes is that some business teams had to actually we met some resistance on doing that, because from one day to another. But at the same time, we saw also some business people that was very happy to actually give that responsibility away from them. So it's a mixture. In terms of behavior, I think that helping the teams, enabling the teams to come up with the same tools and the same language when they use risk profiling, that they all talk the same language. They're all business and actually product owners are talking table stakes, voice spoiler, etc. That is the big change that provided to them. Okay. One more last question. No?
You talk a little bit about difficulty in communicating to the entire company as one of the challenges. Can you talk a little bit about what steps you guys take to overcome that communication?
Yeah, as soon as we started thinking not even doing. We started already receiving some of heads up. Hey, I don't know what you're doing, guys. Why you don't communicate better? We didn't even start it. But so what we do in order to foster communication, we use the company has a communication department. So we have intranet. So on a weekly basis, they say something about it. We created our own blog inside the company, where initially was just first a few of us, then the entire teams that are engaged that talks and posts on weekly basis, sharing the learnings that they have done. You know, team A is working on these features or reforecasting and so on. So that make a big difference in the box, the blog thing. Then we supported, as we said, on doing lean coffees. So with actually people that they didn't understand, they would come and ask about questions about concepts. And I think that, you know, between the quarterly, we do a survey quarterly basis. Well, so we send it to the entire business organization to ask them how, if they perceive how the change going, and if they, you know, we receive very good insight from there. So this is what we do: surveys, measuring them, sharing the lessons learned, and different activities like that. Okay, that's it. Time out. Thank you.